Cheers.
Oh.
Stop. Keep going. I want to hear the rest. Come on.
Baba, geri vermiş.
Shayan Bayat is going to be moderating today, and he lived in US, Iran, and the UK before his family finally settled in Canada, between Toronto and here. And after high school, he went to study at UBC and then at the Langara College Arts Program. Shayan launched an art career first on stage and later in the film and TV industry with guest star roles on popular TV productions like Prison Break, Flash and the Magicians, The Good Doctor, and more. And he worked with writers and was inspired to write his original works, which led to several projects, including the dark comedy Faith and Conviction, which was a winner of the competition PBS WNet TV. Pardon. And he co-wrote, produced the Leo Award-winning feature-length drama Roads of Ithria that was directed by Javier Badillo, and it was an official selection of our festival in 2021 and also showed at the Regina International Film Festival in 2022 and earned Shayan a Leo Award nominations for Best Screenplay and Best Male Lead. Our panelists, which I'm really excited to just get to know and hear you speaking with Shayan, one in alphabetical order. Jonathan, who's also a screening volunteer this year with us, thank you so much for the time that you put, is a Greco-Arab American actor, producer, and screenwriter, librettist, and script doctor, which I had no idea what that meant until meeting Jonathan. He has garnered recognition for his extensive work and advocacy for amplifying and supporting marginalized and underrepresented voices in the entertainment industry, particularly with his hashtag Arabs Break Hollywood. Does anyone know this hashtag? Nice, yeah. Which seeks to break the stereotypes of Arab characters and stories in Hollywood and allow for the reclamation of those voices. I'm pretty sure we all would benefit from that, and the world would. Through his company, Bougie Arabs Entertainment, he has assisted in the development of various projects from the screen to the web and onto the stage with feature and short narrative and documentary projects, TV pilots, and conceptual development of stage musicals and play. He's also the host, creator, and producer of 2 original podcast shows. Get your Apple stores out. The Hollywood Shy and the Script Doctors. And he's a script doctor for independent production companies. Vanessa Issa was born and raised in Lebanon, and she started her acting career at 14. I'm pretty jealous, and has worked on theater plays, short films, TV shows, and commercials. At 18, she started professionally working in the film industry in the MUH casting, art, and production departments in Beirut. And sorry, I get distracted when people come in the room. See, now I don't know where I was. Oh yeah, alongside a career of entertainment management in the Gulf, while training through acting workshops in Europe, she was the official representative of the Michael Chekhov Europe training in Lebanon and held and produced series of workshops there. At 22, Vanessa moved to Doha, Qatar, and became the general manager of a talent agency, The Talent Factory, where she also worked as a casting director, fashion show producer, and stage producer. I guess, yeah, ADHD is coming. At 25, Vanessa resigned from her position and moved to Vancouver, BC to shift the focus on her own craft and acting career. She graduated from Vancouver Acting School and Langara College Film Arts won the Vancouver Monologue Show, which I had the chance to watch, and you kicked ass. And I'm so proud of you. She strives to pave the way for the authentic representation of Middle Eastern women on screen. And last but not least, Baraka. Baraka Rahmani is an Arab-Canadian artist living in Vancouver. Born in Jordan to Iraqi parents, Baraka moved to Canada to pursue her BFA in performance at Simon Fraser University. She went on to perform in leading roles on renowned stages across Canada. In film and television, Baraka has had the privilege of playing many leading and supporting roles on Netflix, Disney Plus, and ABC, to name a few. Baraka is a two-time Jessie Award nominee and the recipient of the Artistic Risk Award from the Vancouver Fringe Festival in 2015. And she has had the opportunity to shadow directors Adam McDonald, Basil Ghandour, and most recently, she was the official shadow on Sky on Paramount Plus, learning from director Shamim Sharif, who would go on to become the executive producer of Baraka's first short film, Before We Were Told. When was that produced? Nice. And your recent acting credits include The Watchful Eye, Alex Tubasi, Polarized, Zane, and Love Classified, Hannah, A Million Little Things, Carly, The Alleys, and Sadia Jalalzeh. I don't know how to, yeah. So, I don't know how, if you're as excited as I am to listen to our amazing panelists. Without further ado, I'll give you the stage and enjoy.
Hi everyone, I'm Shayan. I don't know why they asked me to moderate, but I do know that it did appeal to my ego. So here I am. I had the privilege of meeting everyone. Thank you. Well, I was not expecting that. Can I get an iced tea? Actually, no. I think we have a really great panel of professionals that all have very different perspectives than I had. So that's it's going to be really great to discuss with them what we share and the differences in our experiences. To kick it off, I wanted to ask everybody, or just like throw out the idea of discussing the concept of perception, because representation is both reflects perception and perception influences representation. So they have it's a two-way street here. I'm just going to throw this out to you guys, so whoever wants to go first. Tell me about your guys' understanding as so far in your careers that you've seen how things have evolved. I mean, most of us have more than a 10-year, like a decade or so of experience. How you've seen perception change the representation of the characters we audition for, or the roles we get, and then vice versa. How that representation has changed the perception. Jonathan, you want to go first? Maybe?
On this latest one, go first.
Yeah, or let's go the other way. Let's go reverse alphabet.
Sure.
Yeah.
I can speak to that. Basically, perception is a spot-on word. I think that what I have found in North America. I'm Baraka, by the way. We introduced ourselves and we were. This is the face.
I'm Vanessa.
Jonathan. Perception. I feel like. I can speak to being Arab, like my MENA identity is I'm Arab, and I find that we're still such a mystery in North American work and to North American people in general, that we always want to change people's perception of that, because I feel like, especially in a post 9/11 world, we have fallen into the trope of like either side of the spectrum, which is we are either terrorists in shows and on screen basically, or we are exoticized. And either one of those spectrums are untouchable. We're not humanized. And I think that really affects our opportunities. It affects beyond our opportunities, just growing up watching our identities on screen be completely misunderstood, completely shown in a very two-dimensional light, it becomes a lot of work for MENA artists, because we have to create that space for ourselves. It's not enough for me to just want to be an actor. I have to, if I want to be represented correctly, or in a way that's any different than the two-dimensional lens, then I have to create the work. I have to advocate for the work. I have to educate beyond the work, just by existing, you know, be the exception to the rule.
Which is why you'll probably find everybody on this panel, or in most gatherings that I see of MENA actors especially, we all do something else as well. We all write, we all produce, because we have to, otherwise we won't get a chance to play roles that actually let us stretch our muscles, you know. Vanessa, did you want to?
I fully agree.
Yeah.
We're either also not just like, because as a woman, maybe I don't receive opportunities as a terrorist, but it's always the woman who is like,
There's always time. There's always room.
her husband is beating her up and I'm the victim. And, you know, like it's always those dramatic roles, or a sex icon, you know, and I really just sometimes want opportunities of roles where people can connect with me as human beings, because even watching everything on screen, I do not see an Arab character representing just a regular role. Or if they have to be there, we have to justify why they are there. It's not just like they exist and it's normal and it's okay.
Yeah. It's I think that the term coined for it is otherism. So we're just all bunched into, not just MENA, but like, you know, other ethnic minorities as well, bunched into one group that are the other, as opposed to the, you know, mainstream Caucasian characters. I know, and it does become tiresome. I know I'm sick of being a sex icon.
You make a great one.
I know.
Yeah, for me, it's kind of been like growing up is seeing that the MENA voice has constantly been dehumanized, especially from my perspective, because I am from California, actually. I'm an American that has lived through this Canadian panel. But I come from more of like a Hollywood lens and seeing that kind of stuff, because that's where most of my work is. But it's like growing up, we've constantly been dehumanized, and like we were saying, exoticized or otherized and stuff like that. You know, there's a great work by a film historian named Dr. Jack Shaheen, where he classifies MENA representation as this 3B syndrome. And it kind of goes over, you know, the course of Hollywood's 100-year history, where in the beginning, we were the belly dancers, right? Like, it was the exotic women, and it was like the very mysterious and sexy. But then as time went on, it's like, you know, when the oil tycoons took over in the oil boom, we became the billionaires, right? We were the ones with the money. But in a lot of the projects, we were always villainized still. Like, we're the ones controlling profit. We're the ones controlling this, controlling that. But then in a post-9/11 world, we've become the bombers, right? We're the terrorists. We're the ones that are always the villain for American and Canadian and Western independence and stuff like that. When it's like, no. And not to get into like, you know, politics and stuff. But so it's like we've gradually, constantly been dehumanized. And through that, we need to humanize our voice by showing people, this is who we really are. We're the doctors, the lawyers, the cafe, the baristas, you know, all these different things and whatnot. And through humanizing us, hopefully we can begin to change the narrative of what MENA and SWANA representation is in, you know, whether it's indie productions or mainstream big Hollywood productions, for me at least.
Yeah, I mean, characters that are not just... See, I find that in my time here, and this is in Vancouver, so this is a little bit different. Most of our opportunities here are actually foreign productions. So it's American productions coming here, and then we're not only an afterthought by being MENA, but we're also an afterthought by being Vancouver actors. I mean, I can't count the times that I have had a role on a show, and I'm hanging with the cast, and they're like, "Hey, why don't we go back to LA? Let's hang out." And I'm like, "Oh, I live here," and they're shocked that there's an actor from Vancouver working in Vancouver. So we're facing that as well, that barrier here where we are. But the characters, to get back to the point of perception, the characters that we're looking at are usually quite one-dimensional. They serve really just one or two purposes within a scene or two. And they're not characters so much as devices for exposition, for information to come out about their main characters. So I don't know, can you guys speak to that? Like, what kind of auditions do you guys see when you look at the characters? And it's up to us. Like, usually they say, well, it's up to you. You give them backstory. You give them, and that's fine. I could do that. But at the end of the day, what are the audience going to see? I can give them a lifetime of backstory. But what is the editor going to actually cut and leave in there? Do you guys want to like?
Yeah, there was a panel at Sundance actually a few years ago, a writers panel, and they discussed how many MENA writers. There are 0.3 writers in Hollywood that are MENA identifying, and they spoke about how actually it's a logistical nightmare to write an Arab or MENA character, because everybody, the funding bodies, the productions are like, well, what do you mean? Like, where are we going to find a hijabi mom? Well, why? Like, the diversification of our people is just completely because of that one lens. Again, it goes back to that. Where are the Christian Arabs? Where are the Jewish Arabs? Like, nobody, there's a lot of people that just don't know that at all. Like, they're just kind of like Arab equals Muslim equals on a very conservative side of Islam. And so why does the character need to be Arab? Let's make them Latino. You know, that's better. That's where we're gonna find these actors anyway. And it comes off as lazy, frankly, because we're out there. But I think, yeah, generally the auditions that come through, it's usually open ethnicity. That's the word, open ethnicity. And you're like, okay, I'm going out for Alex Kim. Okay, hopefully they like me enough to change the last name to Abdullah, you know? And it happens, you know, it did happen with Alex Kim. They changed it to Alex to Bossy. But it's really rare, and it already sets you up to be defeated. I mean, as an actor, you know the struggle, right? But then you look at that and you're like, oh my God, me and everybody else. And I think because a lot of MENA identifying people are white passing, we are taught, it's ingrained in us to actually conform, to try to assimilate. So we are part of the problem of the mystery of what we are. Because we kind of fall, like, we're not, a lot of us are not like outwardly different, right? But then they're like, okay, so does this person count as diversity? Maybe not quite. And so let's just go full tilt and go somewhere else. So yeah, I mean, it's complicated.
Yeah, we're in a, especially those who have grown up here, culturally have adopted Western, like, we're multicultural effectively. We are in a bit of a limbo there. And if they want specifically to have a character that's MENA, they don't know, they're not sure how MENA it should be. Does it have to have they have to have an accent, right? Like, it doesn't make sense if they don't have an accent, or does it? So they're so confused by it, which actually I think this was it Vanessa that brought up
About the accent.
I think Vanessa has a really good idea about
I was born and raised in Lebanon and only moved here when I was 25. So right now, how you're hearing me speak, I've been taking dialect classes every single week, and I'm still obviously not there. But when I get, because I also audition for voiceover, and when I get voiceover auditions of like, it's a Middle Eastern character, they want an accent, but they also don't want an accent. But it's like reading the directions that I get, I'm like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to try to make an American accent and you consider that your accent? Or you want me to speak with my accent? Or do you want, it's so confusing because it's clearly they have no clue what they want. And clearly my accent is not required when they want like Middle Eastern women, roles. And my agent was very honest with me. She cannot apply me to maybe 85% of the projects until I have my 100% American accent. And that is the reality of things. Because it's not okay, even though I hope that everyone currently understands what I'm speaking, if being clear is not enough. I have to sound specifically either American or Canadian to be even considered for opportunities. And I do think it's unfair. And I'm doing it. I'm taking the challenge and it's fine. It's not going to stop me. But why? Why can I not just exist and you can just accept me as I am, as a human being? Because we all sound different.
Yeah, my guess is it's control. They want to feel like they're in control of this character, that they've made choices for it, that they're making the decisions for that character, and that they're just putting it out there for somebody else to meet their expectations of what that character should be. And they have to have expectations to sound like they know what they're doing. But you mentioned that when they don't really know, though, what they expect. They have expectations, but they're not clear about those expectations. And they certainly don't communicate those expectations very well. And I find that especially in the writing itself, when you're looking at dialogue, and they want an accent, sometimes they say that this dialogue should have an accent. But then when you're reading the actual text of the dialogue, it's not written to that accent. That is, you don't use those words. You don't use that grammar. There's in that translation between somebody who's like ESL, English as a second language, they're translating a different kind of grammar into a new kind of grammar. So they will not use our grammar the same way that we do as native English speakers. But that's not written into it. That makes it very hard to do that accent, because that's not the way a person with that accent would actually speak. And Jonathan, do you have examples of those?
Kind of, actually. 2 years ago, I auditioned for a Netflix show that I will not disclose because I've been media trained. But the character actually was supposed to be fluent in Arabic. And I was like, great, I'm fluent in Arabic. And it was the dialect that I normally tend to speak, which is a Palestinian dialect. And I was like, okay, here we go. So they sent me the script. Of course, the lines are in English. So they said, translate as you will. I translated on the audition tape, submitted it to this casting agency that clearly was not anything to do with the MENA culture or MENA people. And they came back and were like, okay, great. Maybe actually let's try with an accent now. And I go, my Arabic in an accent? They go, no. Like, do the lines in English, but do it with an accent. And I was like, okay, but that contradicts the character, because the character's supposed to be emigrating from Palestine, and he's supposed to be Palestine. Okay, whatever. I did it. They came back a couple weeks later, and they're like, we loved it, but hear us out. Can you thicken the accent? And I go, thicken the accent? I'm sorry, I don't know what that note is. And they're like, well, just, he needs to, like, it's like he just came off the airplane. Like, he's like, the few English words he knows is whatever he used to see in, like, TV shows or movies. And I'm just like, okay, I'm sorry, but what is the context of the character now then? Like, are you trying to get the humor out of the way I sound and the way I speak? Because I don't think there's anything funny with any immigrant that immigrates to the Western world and tries to speak the language, The fact that they're doing that, power to them, because the Western world does not go to our countries and try to assimilate and speak some of our words, But in that regard, it was like a 3-month casting thing, constant callbacks, and at the end I was just like, thank you for your time, and thank you for allowing me to have this opportunity, but I don't think I'm the perfect fit for this. And the show has come out, I will tell you that. And the role that I was up for, which was a major reoccurring role, was actually written out.
Oh, wow, good.
And that arc was given to the main character, which I was like, okay, that works, I guess. But I've had those kinds of experiences. And it kind of like you're saying, because how is it written? The dialogue, are you supposed to write it in broken English on the page? Well, no, because just write it in normal English. And then if you want an accent, I don't know, just,
Yeah, and that actually segues well into the next thing I wanted to bring up is, where do we draw the line, right? Like, I know when I started out, I was auditioning for anything and everything. And some of those, now I've been fortunate enough, I've been lucky enough to not actually book and have to do one of those, terrorist roles or whatever. I'm glad, and I'm going to keep it that way. But at first I would still audition for them. I eventually started to just reject them, refuse them. And arguably that might be bad for your career or something. But I just was like, I don't want to do that. My heart's not in it. There's no point. Like I'm not going to do a very good job. Probably I didn't book any of them because I wasn't really into it. And something like this would come up, and at some point you say, no, thank you. I don't really want this role. I think that there's a bit of power in our hands that, if more and more, the problem is from their perception is that, if you don't want to do this audition, fine. There's like 10,000 other people who will gladly take this role. And because of that, we're like the crabs in the bucket. We're just clinging to ourselves. Nobody can get out of the bucket because we just keep pulling ourselves down. If there's this perception on their end that, people don't actually want to do these roles. The artists actually stand up for themselves and their communities and against this perception. That might actually help. That might actually send a message. So to a certain extent, I don't know, do you guys have experiences with this, or that to a certain extent we have some power?
Yeah, and I was going to say it kind of opens a dialogue and open communication with producers or especially casting agents, because it's funny, the casting agency that I'm referencing to this project, a friend of mine actually went up for another project that they were working on, and I don't know what it was. She basically found out they were saying like there was this Middle Eastern actor who was just difficult to work with. I assumed it was me because, everything's about me. And what's funny to me, though, is 2 years later, and I'm not kidding you not, yesterday as I got on the plane to Vancouver from San Francisco, this same casting agency goes, hey, we're auditioning for season 2 of the show. We tried to cast you for season 1. Do you mind re-auditioning? And I left them on red.
Nice. I was gonna. It just popped into my head. Do you guys have any experience with being offered something that you have rejected?
I've had, so when I first came here, the first auditions I was receiving were in Farsi.
No. Okay.
I do not speak the language, I speak Arabic, but they kind of look the same, Arabic and Farsi. So,
Same, similar alphabet.
yeah. At the beginning, when I got that, I was like, oh, okay. So my mindset was like, I need to do anything, like I'm here. I've worked my ass off to be here. I need to do whatever they send me. And I literally spent like 4 days, maybe it was for a huge role, and the script was really long. I asked my friend to read it in Farsi, and I was like memorizing elf language and like tried to like audition. And then he was like, you have an Afghan accent while speaking Farsi. And I'm like, I do not know what I'm doing. But then I was like, I'm gonna draw the line that you want authenticity, great.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not like, I speak Arabic. I'm not gonna pretend to speak a different language for you.
Right.
So this is where I was like, no, I'm not gonna audition anymore in a different language. In Arabic, I'm happy to do that. But yeah, that's mainly.
Yeah, I know that. I think almost all of us have been through that, where we've tried to do an audition in a different language, and then you're like, why am I doing this? This is ridiculous.
Yeah, I think where we draw the line evolves as our careers evolve, and I think the more comfortable we get turning things down, and also just age, being young women in the industry, you're like, yeah, I'll do this. I'll be a monkey. Do you want me to Bollywood dance? Okay, and truly, I would go into theater auditions, and they literally be like, didn't you sing an Arabic song last year? Do that Arabic bit. And I'm like, why? This character has nothing to do. Like last year it had something to do, but not this year. But they love it, and I'm checking all the boxes, and they're like, look who we brought in, as well as this person. And I think that, to your point, and what you were asking about, if I've ever turned something down, I guess I'm proud to say similarly, I've turned it down at the audition point, not even at the getting the role. And it's usually, I think I've had 2 or 3 auditions that come in, and it would be a character, an Arab character, and the context is like, she's the Arab lead, she's the lead of the movie and like all that stuff, but it's basically just a story about white saviorism, and that's still happening today.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, that I just can't. I can't do that. And that's I think that's where I draw the line.
So
really.
so do you do that did you do that from like? Do you tell your agent about that, or
Yeah.
do you
And I explain, like, I
see
just
the audition and you? Okay. Jonathan.
I was gonna say, like, for me, every time I'm told no or I'm given those hurdles of like, sorry, we can't cast you for XYZ reason, it fuels my fire within me. Where I'm like, that's fine, and that's kind of why I have shifted from acting more to like writing and producing.
Yeah.
But more specifically, like there was another project I did or auditioned for 7 years ago, and it was a big budget project without media training and stuff. Huh? But the character was a very famous, well-known what's the word, like a character in stories, so people would know this character. And I auditioned, and it involved singing and dancing and all this stuff, and I was in the casting process for probably 5 months. And I was like, they're really working me hard for this, and they're like, we've went from 2,000 open auditions to 1,000 to, you're making it. I'm like, great. I didn't know this was it is a competition at the end of the day, sadly. But, I'm like, okay, I didn't know it was a marathon I'm running.
Right.
But at the very end, after 5 months of hard work, they were like, we respect the time and energy you've put, but you also just like don't look like the role we're going for. And I'm like, look like? It's not like I've changed my appearance in 5 months or whatever. And I mean, to them, kind of what we were saying earlier of the perception of what, producers or people who think they understand us and know us, they don't, is that when I saw this film that eventually, of course, got made, the actor that got the role was much more darker complexion than I was, which there's nothing wrong with that. But it was just like, for them, they were like, because again, I acknowledge that I'm a white passing MENA artist, but it was like, let's break those boundaries and just understand that we come from all these different wonderful, shades of color of our skin and our religious identities and our sexual orientations, but we're a very complex group. Don't box us into one specific thing just because it's like, no, you need to look darker skin because white people aren't going to think that's what an Arab looks like.
Yeah, there's almost no perception on their part of the diversity among the MENA population. Like I know for like when they say Iranians, they think Persians are Iranians, whereas there's dozens of ethnicities in Iran who are all Iranians, and many of them are mixed. There's actually not one type of Iranian. And I find that hilarious that they don't acknowledge that at all, that they don't see, they just kind of want to be like, this country, this people, that's the look. And then that one thing is how it's all boxed into, which actually this segues well into what I wanted to discuss next, which is like the industry end of things, the creators, the producers, the funders, because they are at the root of it. They are the ones that, I mean, we're so late in the project. Like we're so late at the process of creating media, because we come in at the point where most of the decisions have been made, right? And we are offered a chance to vie for one of those roles. So our influence on those things is very, very small. The greatest influence is at the point of where the creators actually start something and want to begin a project and want to tell a story. The choices they make for that, and then the sources from which they get the funding. Now we've all created stuff in one capacity or another. So can you guys tell me more about that, like your experience about finding funding for your projects, or teaming up with producers, or finding funding for like screenwriting and all that? Do you want to go first, Baraka?
Yeah, I think that on a basic level, I'm gonna give an example. Actually, I auditioned for a big theater company. I was part of that season, and I was auditioning for the following season. And that particular production had co-directors. So one was this old white guy, and the other guy was a young gay white guy. And in the room, so they were there, and the casting director was there, who was also a white middle-aged lady, and the reader was a white middle-aged lady. And killed the audition, if I do say so myself.
Yes.
I thought I did.
I'm sure you did.
Thanks. And then I didn't hear back, and then I happened to see one of the older white director at at a party or whatever, and he's like, Baraka, you did so well. I really, I want to say, and he was kind of,
deep into his drinks, and I really wanted to cast you. And I said, oh, can you give me feedback if you don't mind? And he said, well, it's actually, can you speak more to this? Because we did want you. And the young guy, who also happened to be the head of the diversity meetings at that festival, said, oh no, Baraka doesn't count. It's a diversity hire and she doesn't count. And I was like, okay, so the Arab immigrant whose first language is Arabic doesn't count. But primarily what I couldn't get over is 4 white people, after I left, spoke about me to each other and decided that I don't count as a diversity hire. That's a problem. And I started thinking about, okay, how can we solve this problem? And nowadays, whether it's in film or in theater, we have, for intimate scenes, we have intimacy coordinators. And I think that's so valuable and so necessary. And I started to think, okay, I think in the same way that now we need an intimacy coordinator, in every casting room, in every funding body room, in every discussion about people's identities, there should be a diversity consultant. Point blank.
Amen.
Diversity consultant, I think, at the root level, could solve a lot of problems.
Yeah, and could communicate with them things that they can't be expected to be educated on.
And let's be clear, that diversity consultant shouldn't be white.
No,
Yeah,
it should be a diversity.
No.
That would be nice. Vanessa, do you have?
So when I first came here, I took part of a run and gun project, and I was, having coffee with the director and just telling her the challenges that I'm facing when I came here, because there's no opportunities for me. And she was like, you know what, like, we can't write your stories. Like, your people need to write your stories, and then you have the opportunities. And I'm like, fair enough, right? But then I was very grateful to meet a Lebanese director. I think she's in the crowd here. And she,
I see her.
like, she's a writer, director. She wrote a story. She went to get, like, funding to every opportunity that she could get. She could not get funding. Then, like, it makes it so hard for us that, yes, our writers are here. They're writing our stories, but then they don't get the funding to make it. And then it's a whole thing of, like, where I think it would solve a lot of things, even having a diversity coordinator for the funding. I don't know who makes the decisions, but most of the times it's white people making the decisions on who the funds go for.
Well,
Especially
Telefilm here for film. Telefilm is sort of the main body for that. Yeah.
Yay.
And okay, wow, that really threw me a curveball.
Don't talk
Like-
shit.
We were going to talk shit.
Go for it.
Jonathan, you had something to say.
Yes, what did I have to say? Okay. Me or?
No, that's not. I was going to say it's
Floor is
mostly
yours, sir.
it's mostly done. And to their credit, what I was actually going to say, they did because I've been applying to them for development funding for 2 years now, and I think 3 or 4 years ago, they switched their system to offer 3 committees that now make those decisions. There's an open committee, what I'm calling a BPOC committee, and then an indigenous committee. So I've been applying to the BPOC committee. And the idea is that the committee is made up of BPOC members.
Makes sense.
Which I think is, and then the indigenous committee is made up of indigenous members, and that hopefully helps how they receive the projects from the BIPOC creators, producers. But I also wanted to discuss the U.S. experience. What's been your experience there in terms of raising funding for your projects?
Yeah, so I just want to say, you guys, I will say the Commonwealth, because the UK kind of included, you guys have a lot more funding opportunities for diverse voices than the States, because in the States, that does not exist. You want to make something? Great. Get your own money. Like, there really is no source for you to find funding for anything. And that's why I've actually, like, a lot of my work that I'm doing for productions, or not productions, I'm working on a musical actually and a documentary. I have found funding for it in the UK. So I'm constantly in the UK, and it's because they're looking for the diverse voices and being able to really say, yeah, we are helping you in doing that, you know. In the States, the problem is when you come up, because this has happened to me with again media trading, two different streamers that I've pitched a TV show idea to, and they love the idea. They're like, this would do great on our platform and stuff. But we have one major note. And I'm like, yeah, sure, you know, hit me with it. And they're like, why does the character have to be Middle Eastern? And I go, because it's based on my life. Like, what else? Like, literally, I was so self-indulgent that I named the character John, you know, like, it's that clear. But it was just like, yeah, we just don't know if that would do well on our platform. And I'm like, well, you know, you exist in the Middle East. It's not like people can't stream your show, but also, like, the core to the character is because they are Middle Eastern, they are dealing with these different things and whatnot. And then, you know, of course, the show never got made because they never picked it up or like wanted to buy it from me. And I remember one time, one of my mentors actually, without like name dropping, is Mila Kunis.
Mila Kunis, wow.
And I was bringing this up to her, and she was just looking at me. She's like, "Well, why did you walk out of that room?" And I go, "Because I felt defeated." She goes, "Let me tell you some advice that if anyone knows Kenya Barris, the showrunner who made the show Blackish, Grownish, Mixedish, and stuff. One time they were talking about a project that dealt with like a BIPOC character. And the same thing happened to him where they're like, we're not going to fund it, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, well, you don't get it because culturally speaking, this is why this character would behave in this way. Or this culturally speaking, the story needs to talk about this, this, and that. And she said, when Kenya said that to these white executives, they immediately shut up because they're like, well, we can't say anything back to them because we'll seem like racists or like, you know, we're this. And that stuck with me. So then every now and then when I'm in a room pitching an idea to executives and they're like, we don't get it. And I go, well, culturally speaking. To see the shift on their face immediately, they're like, oh, crap. Okay, how do we like work around this without sounding like racists, you know? But it's like still hard to find funding like that. Like, I mean, props to, and I don't if we're streaming this somewhere eventually, but like if Rami Youssef is out there or Mo Amer, I mean, those two big profile mainstream Hollywood, I mean, for the Arab at least, you know, perspective, have been able to create shows around Middle Eastern characters, complex ones too, which is amazing, you know? Props to them because it's like, we need more of that out there to humanize our voices, but also because if we have more people in power like that, we can get better funding and more work. Right. You know?
Yeah, that's funny because that just makes me think of something else that we were discussing before. This tendency that we might have as MENA creatives of going into a room and feeling, and this might be more of a Canadian thing as well, of going into a room for an audition or for a pitch or something, and rather than owning it and feeling like we deserve to be there, then being in there and feeling like, oh, they're you know, thank you for your time, you know, oh my God, they're gonna listen to me, and feeling like we don't deserve it. You know, we don't deserve this opportunity to vie for this project or that role. Whereas there's others that will go into the room and they know that because we put in the work, we've developed something, we have something we're very excited about and it's got a lot of power behind it, and yet others will go in there and they will own that opportunity and they will show and that entitlement. Yeah, they'll have that entitlement to say that this is mine and you need to give it to me. Jonathan, that sounded like exactly that kind of experience.
Kind of, yeah. But I would also want to touch upon the thing that Vanessa was talking about, because the project Vanessa's talking about, I'm actually the producer on that project, and the director, she's here too. But she went out to a fund that specifically was trying to look for like a Middle Eastern or Arab voice to help fund and whatnot. And I was in London at the time for work, so I couldn't hop on the call. And afterwards, she messaged me and she was like, well, the call went good. Like, I was given the space to talk about the project and stuff, but the person who was supposed to award the fund or like grant us it was white. And the comments that this person made was kind of like, well, I don't understand why it's not political enough. And my director, she's like, political enough? We don't need to make MENA stories always political. Just us taking up a space to tell a story is political enough. We're putting our voices out there, you know? And it was more like they wanted to focus more on like, well, we want to know what the trauma is behind the project. And my director, who I don't know if I can say her name because I don't want to embarrass her, but like, she was like, sir or ma'am or person, like, we're not here to fetishize our trauma in some sort of way that you as the white viewer want, because that's not the narrative we want anymore. We want to tell our stories away from that. Sometimes, of course, because especially for a lot of us maybe who have immigrated, or for like me who have intergenerational trauma, like that will seep into the project. But we want to get away from the explosions and the bloodiness that we constantly see in the media, and so afterwards I was like, if I could swear, I literally told her, I said, fuck that person. I will find you the funds to make this project because the story needs to be seen.
Okay, good. Somebody else swore before I did. That relieves a lot of pressure. Yeah, I know. That's an ongoing thing. And other sources of funding, I have been told, because I always try to get, this is a problem we have, I think, with Canada, where it's very hard to get feedback. You're allowed to go after it. Yes, there's a way, there's an infrastructure that we can use to apply, but it's very, very difficult to get funding from them if you are getting funding from, if you have no track record with their funds already. So I'm always trying to like twist arms, and there's no official system of giving feedback to projects that aren't funded. So that means you have to, email and call and try to twist their arms into getting some sort of feedback, so that a year from now, when you apply again, you're not doing the same thing. You're not banging your head against the wall. And in no uncertain terms, they've told me, like, look, you're Persian. You should pitch Persian projects. I'm like, okay, I can have Persian characters, obviously, and I would like to. I would like to include, people of my background, people of my region, into my stories. I do naturally like to do that. That's obviously, but you can't tell me that I need to tell Persian stories only. That I can't tell other stories, because I'm also Canadian, right? I can't tell a Canadian story. I can't tell a story about people I know, lives that I've crossed paths with, because it's not, doesn't seem like it's coming from, a Persian story from a Persian creator. And they just sort of shrug their shoulders and say, well, this is how the committees kind of see it. Because if it's not really related to you, they're like, well, why are you telling this story? But the story is there, the experience is there. And if you look at my history and you look at the story I'm telling, you will understand where the correlation is. But no, it has to be on the very surface.
Yeah, I feel like our experiences have to be like an anomaly, or like we can't just have a normal experience. Like we just have to, our stories have to be interesting enough, and it's not enough to just wake up, have a coffee, and happen to be Arab. You have to justify our existence in Hollywood. To answer your question about funding, I had an experience where I pitched something. I went pretty far with it, and the next level was I was pitching for 10 minutes. Basically, I talked about the importance of my project. It was about an Arab Christian family and the importance of representation and choosing to basically give a different lens to Arab characters and all that. And I finished the pitch, and the first thing the panel asked was, well, where are you going to find the actors for that? And I, because the family spoke English, Arabic, and French, and a lot of Levantine Arabs speak those three languages.
Yeah.
And I said, well, also it's based in Montreal, where a lot of Lebanese families live there and they speak those languages. And they're just like I could see their wheels turning of like, this is a logistical nightmare. There's no way you're gonna. And again, it was, F you, I'm gonna fund it myself, and we did, and that was
Nice. Good for you.
But yeah,
Power to you.
Thanks.
Yeah. There's a lot of FU is very is a powerful tool to get things done, because otherwise we would just be at the whim of other people who only see the reasons why we can't do things. I just wanted to, because we're gonna get up, we're gonna come up on time for like Q&As, but I wanted to, I think we've gone through a lot of the obstacles that we face. But we did talk a little bit about what we see as solutions to those, like diversity consultants. But I wanted to at this phase, and now that we sort of talked about, the funding and the creators, so that the projects, the opportunities of better representation can emanate from. I want to hear ideas. Like, do we have ideas here and then eventually we can open up to the Q&A, ideas that we might have about how, from the funding source to the producers and creators, we can help remedy this and start at least a process of progressing out of it. What do you guys?
I just want to speak to the MENA people in this room and say it's really easy to be discouraged, and actually a lot of times we don't support each other's projects because we go, whoa, that doesn't represent me. Like even Rami Youssef's thing, I'm like, I relate zero to that because he's from a conservative family and his experience is growing up in the diaspora. And I'm like, oh man, like another Arab show where it's about him praying. And, I remember being discouraged by that and it blowing up on a big scale. And of course, a lot of times the funding bodies, they don't have the imagination. They're like, that worked. Does your show match that? Let's do that, right?
Yeah,
they don't. And we're 22 Arab countries. In the case of me speaking as an Arab, we're 22 Arab countries. Let's diversify. Let's be okay with taking risks and being like, yeah, that worked, great. This is another Arab story. But in the meantime, I encourage us as MENA individuals to be patient and to support that, whether we see ourselves represented in it or not. Because eventually I think our time is coming. I think there is a wave of education, especially right now with the climate of what's happening in the world. I think people are understanding Arabs more and our plight. And so let's be patient and be hopeful. And hopefully the funding bodies will start to listen and take more risks with our demographic.
Yeah, I agree.
The education is a big thing.
Yeah.
Which it's okay, like I understand that not everyone knows about the 22 countries or that we speak multiple languages, right? Or that everyone assumes that.
And that there's multiple religions. It's just the whole thing about Middle East, Middle East, Arab, Islam. They just have to go together. Whereas it's also the cradle of Christianity. It's nope, that just gets forgotten so easily. I find that amazing.
Well, because Jesus is white.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
And also that's kind of related to real life, like when I came here from Lebanon and just like the interactions I had specifically with guys that they thought, oh, I'm a virgin woman who's like, just like that thought, because that's how we're represented on screen always. It's like, just can I not be that icon for you for now? So if we fix that in the representation, like because we're underrepresented and misrepresented, that would help a lot of the problems that we face on a daily basis and the low-key racism and all of that. But if we just as human beings, because we've been accepting, acceptance has been great but selective and it has not been applied to us yet. So if we just do not assume that this person that we're talking to has all these qualities that we've seen on TV because the media does not represent them correctly, and we are curious more instead of judging and assuming, I think on a human level it's going to help a lot, because I do face this day after day, and I've been almost here 3 years, and yes, it is very challenging as an actor and being from any ethnicity or whatever, but it's super important not to be defeated or quit, because if we do, then there's no change happening, and then the younger generations are not going to thank us for making the change happen. Change takes time. So I'm like, the fire is there, keep fighting, no matter how long it's going to take. Even if I'm 50 and I book my first role, I don't give a fuck. I'm here for...
Oh, good for you.
For swearing.
No, more people swear, please.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm here for the journey and for making the change happen. And then hopefully the younger generations will not face those challenges and problems.
Nice. Yeah. Jonathan, what do you...
I agree with both these wonderfully talented women, these amazing women here, especially with Baraka, what you were saying, kind of like, let's support one another. I mean, that's kind of why I started the hashtag Arabs Break Hollywood, which I could tell you why I started that, but
Yeah.
maybe afterwards, like how that started. But it's literally like, let's just keep becoming inclusive too. Like the beauty of this particular film festival, MENA Film Festival, you know, it touches upon so many different beautiful cultures in our countries, religions, peoples, and stuff like that. Let's all support each one of those. Just because I'm not Irani or Persian doesn't mean I can't watch and support those movies.
That's
Just because I'm an Arab Christian, just because I'm not Muslim doesn't mean I can't support Muslim-based stories. You know, we come from the same region where we have a lot of the same beliefs and values. So let's support one another that way, you know, in creating beautiful art together. And kind of what Vanessa said, the education. I mean, it is sad seeing you know, nowadays with the political environment, how miseducated people are. But it's like there's nothing wrong with just taking the time to go, hey, actually XYZ, you know, taking the time and educating somebody without, you know, coming across as like, you freaking idiot, you know. But what was the other? There was another thing I was gonna say, and it went.
No, that's okay.
onto my
I know that
brain.
happens to me a lot, but keep thinking about it. I was just gonna. I'm gonna add one thing. There is a chicken and egg scenario here where because we started with perception, so I'm just gonna bring it back to that. I really like bringing things back. There's the media representation of us. There's the public perception of us, and they feed each other. The creators will say, oh, well, I have to make something that people want to watch. If they don't want to watch a MENA character as a lead or a major supporting role or something, what am I supposed to do? I'm in an industry. I have to make something they want to watch. And of course, they make the stuff that they make, and then they influence the perception of that audience, and then they use that audience's perception as the excuse to continue to do what they want to do, to continue to do the exact same thing that they're doing. So the cycle has to break, and I don't think anybody else is going to do it for us. So it comes down to us as creators, as creatives, to rally ourselves, support ourselves, create, you know, as communities especially, support those artists. One of the biggest pet peeves I have about Persians is that they're endlessly proud of their heritage, their culture. They keep going on and on about how amazing our poets are and all that. And I really find it amazing that they hardly ever support the current artists of our time. I don't see them really supporting us very much at all. Now, maybe some people are getting support and everything. I haven't seen it at all. But I would like to see that happen within all of our communities, to support our artists, our creatives, to find ways of getting their projects made, getting their projects seen, raising the profile of that project so that the main funding sources can help us then. Because once they see that, oh, actually people want to see these things, it doesn't have to be based on our perception of what the market wants to see or what gets funded or what gets sold by distributors. There's actually a chance for us to try for something new and different. Do you remember what you were saying?
I do actually, based
Perfect.
on what you were saying
But
too.
just enough time.
I was gonna say, like, just create. And I know that's a very vague thing to say, but like, we all have in this day and age an iPhone. Pull it out, film something, write a quick story, do something, post it on social media. You know, the more you're putting yourself out there, the more people will see. Especially nowadays, if you go to an agent or even a publicist, they'll be like, "What's your brand?" And you're like, "I don't know. Like, I wear Adidas." You know, and it's like, "No, what is you? Who are you? Who am I, John Akkawi, as an artist?" You know. So just pull your phone out and create, and that's something Mila Kun has told me.
Nice. That's good. Well, thanks, Greg.